sometimes you have to let go of money, like chalk it like, hey, this was an investment, but I lost my money here. Sometimes it's even people, right? Like people who were in your life that just aren't anymore. And you just have to kind of let it be where it is. And it could come back and it could not come back, but you kind of just have to accept it for where it is. It's not good. It's not bad. It's really just the reality. And sometimes the things that you're letting go of, whether it's opportunities or money or people, are just a redirection. And there's just so much peace in accepting things for where they are in the current moment that is indescribable. Welcome to the Cold Connection Podcast, where we talk all things entrepreneurship, business, and professional lifestyle related. Grab your coffee, tea, or wine if you please, get comfy if you can, and let's get started. Welcome to Cole's World. Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of the Cold Connection Podcast. And I know that I've been missing the past couple months, but I'm actually so excited to be back and with you guys. And I'm so ready to continue on consistency in this journey with you guys, right? Because I think we're all together trying to figure out this thing called life and entrepreneurship and being a young professional or an entertainer or a creator. And so it really is a process. So in my time away, it was never supposed to be that long, which is like the wildest story. I just got really caught up with law school. And getting caught up with law school was like really hectic because I had set all these goals for myself in the beginning of the year. And when I set these goals for myself, I'm like, I'm going to drop 2 podcast episodes a month. I'm really going to rock this out. I'm going to be super consistent with it. And my last semester just was such a struggle. I think I actually did an episode in February and just never edited it or released it. And I was just so overwhelmed. And so this episode, I wanted to share with you guys just some things that had been on my heart and kind of how I got through it being so hectic, trying to finish up the semester. I'm done now. I'll be a graduate May 15th. So this episode will probably drop after that. So by this time, it will be a graduate, Nicole Stokes, JD. But that brings me to the topic of this episode. So this episode is called Passion and Peace. And I think that the way that I got to the name of this episode, it actually just came to me. Thank God for that. But over the past couple months, I feel like I was trying to find things that I was passionate about, and trying to kind of tap into what I was passionate about, and finding peace in the process and where I was and in the fact that I wasn't getting quite to the goals that I had set for myself. So I did get a lot accomplished. I finished school. I did my bar exam application. There were things that I was finishing, but I was overwhelmed with the fact that I wasn't finishing everything. And so I had to learn to find peace. So let's get into it. So passion. I want to start with a quote when I'm talking about passion. So the quote is, "There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living." Nelson Mandela. And the reason that this quote hit different for me, a lot of people think that because I've been in school probably my whole life, I did, your regular elementary, middle school, high school. I went to undergrad. After undergrad, I went and got my master's. And after I got my master's, I continued and I went into law school. And I took a little break here and there. And I worked in corporate America for 6 years. And during my time in corporate America, yes, I liked it, but I was never passionate about it. And so people think that I went to school because I like school. I absolutely do not like school. I actually hate school The only reason I stayed in it is because my mom told me that school is not about what you learn, it's about the dedication that it takes to finish school. Um, but with that being said, ever since I was 7, I wanted to be an attorney. So when people ask you, in your childhood, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer was, I want to be a lawyer. And I let go of that passion, right? That thing that I spoke about. My dream was to go to Howard Law and kind of blaze a trail from there. But I got caught up in corporate America, and making good money there, and just a different thing that I was good at, but not quite passionate about. And I want to say that that was playing small because, that's not what I wanted to do. That was kind of where I ended up. Um, and so I encourage you to find what you like to do. To think hard, it might be something from childhood, from years ago, but to find what you're passionate about and stop settling for something smaller than that. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I asked them, how much would it take for someone to pay you to forget your dreams? And that might sound wild when you say it out loud. However, I feel like so many of us go through that, and I did, right? In corporate America, I was making good money, right? Not great money, but good money, and I was on a trajectory track, and I wanted to move up, but it was like I was spending this time and giving to a company to make someone else rich. And it was like they were literally paying me at that point to be comfortable and to forget my dreams. And that was just like wild to think about, because when I was living it, it was just like, yeah, I'm good. I can afford trips and vacations and this and that. But they were literally paying me to forget about the 7-year-old me who wanted to be an attorney so bad. And I had a friend at the time who really just was like, didn't you always want to be an attorney? And I was like, yeah, like maybe I can still make that work. And so I kind of took a chance and stepped out on faith, and I'll discuss that later. I might have discussed it before, but to go to law school. And when you step out on faith, right, to pursue that passion, it's really a scary thing. You don't know what it's going to propel you into. In my case, it was chaos. But I will tell you that what you're passionate about is your gift, and that gift will make room for you. So I saw another quote by T.D. Jakes that said, if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion, for your passion will lead you right into your purpose. And so that's why I say to kind of figure out what you're passionate about, and emphasize the importance of just following whatever dream it was that you had. Like, let's say, for me, it was like going to law school. Not everybody just wakes up and goes to law school. Like, that's not a thing. But for it to even cross my mind had to be something that, like I could be passionate about or could potentially be my purpose. And as I started pursuing it, it was hard, yes, but it made room for me. I made it through law school, as hard as it was. I was nowhere near top of my class, but I made it through it. And so you kind of just have to identify things that you like to do. I know my last episode I discussed, like, if you like interior designing, like go and try and, be an interior designer. Or, if you're just creative, right? I think that's the left side of your brain. If you're just a creative like that, find something, whether it's media or photography, something that you're passionate about, and turn that passion into something, because it really can be your purpose. Like, if it's something that crosses your mind, it crossed your mind for a reason. I won't say that you'll always be passionate about it, because passion, I want to say to a certain extent, right, is a feeling, and feelings can be fleeting. But if you know that this is something that's always on your mind or always on your heart, or you've been wrestling with it or thinking about it or trying to make something of that sort work, then I think that you should follow it. Um, a friend from law school, shout out to Tess, one day we were all on a call and she said that when, her brother had told her that you won't always have the motivation, so have the discipline. And that actually stuck with me because when you're passionate about something, you might not always want to do it, but you want to have the discipline to make it through it until you're passionate about it again. And so I thought that that was a wonderful quote. Um, Another one that I saw that said if you feel like there's something out there that you're supposed to be doing, if you have a passion for it, then stop wishing and just do it. And I get it. Sometimes, we don't have all the pieces to the puzzle. I'm a firm believer that only God has all the pieces to the puzzle, but just get started, right? Like, talk to a friend. I think in my last episode, I said, surround yourself with a good team. Just surround yourself with people who you can bounce these ideas off of. And if it really, really, truly is on your heart, like, follow it. And I had to remind myself in this last semester of law school, which is when I was on this hiatus, is that like, this is something that I am passionate about. I went to law school because I feel like there are so many people in our generation who have wonderful ideas who may never make it in corporate environments because of the things that go down in business, of the people who are in those rooms, of the people who don't mention them in those rooms. And I learned that from working in corporate America. And I was so tired of, us not having a leg up just because we didn't know. And that just happens, I feel like, a lot. There are just so many things that we don't know. And so if I can take my experience that I've learned in my master's program and working in corporate America and pay it forward to give someone guidance on how to build a business or how to be an entrepreneur or just moving parts of things legally that we just don't understand, why wouldn't I do that? And that was one of the reasons I went to law school. And so in this last month, when I was losing motivation, not only for law school, but to be honest, this podcast, I had people reach out to me and say like, hey, you haven't dropped an episode. And it reminded me that what I was doing was a gift and that, God would make room for it. Like my gift would make room for me. And that this was an idea, yes, given to me by God, but something that I'm supposed to implement and keep going. And so my first concentration of this episode was passion, because I feel like sometimes we let our passions go for what's feasible or what's like acceptable in society. And I get it because, the generation older than us was like, you go to work, you go to school, which is important. School is important. They can't take education from you. I'll never tell anybody not to go to school. But they kind of went and they had this linear path. And I feel like a lot of us have realized that, our path isn't as linear as we expected. We don't want to go to work and work, 40 hours for someone else. We have things that drive us, that we feel in our spirits, that we're so passionate about. And so I wanted to take this episode, or a part of this episode, to just encourage you guys to just find what you're passionate about. And it may not be perfect. And your passion might not be something that makes you $3 million, right? It might not make you a millionaire. It might not make you a billionaire. But that passion, someone needs to see it. Someone needs to feel it. Someone needs it to complete their own journey. And so if you're passionate about it, you definitely need to pursue it. Which brings me to my next portion, I guess, which is peace. First, I want to start with the fact that I think peace is a process. And I learned that. I've learned that over the last 3 years in law school, but especially in this last, I want to say maybe it's been 2 or 3 months since I dropped a podcast episode. So comparison is the enemy of peace. I promise you. Some people never follow their passions because others, quote unquote, are doing it. And you just really can't compare yourself to someone else's journey or someone else's lane. I'm a firm believer that like the people that you're meant to reach in your passion or in your purpose are people that you are meant to reach, right? Nobody else can reach those people. There's, billions of people in the world, and no one person can reach all of the billions, right? So we all have different people assigned to us and assigned to your journey. And I feel like if it's one person or three people or 3,000 people or 3 billion people, those were people that were meant to for you to reach. And you just gotta be confident enough that even if it's one person and that one person listens to you over someone else and vice versa, that person was meant for you. And they heard something and they got something from it that was important or instrumental in their journey. And so I think that, when I say some people never follow their passion because others are doing it, we get, distracted like, oh, somebody already has that lane. And I'm not going to say everybody does, but I know that I have, right? Like I've looked at people and been like, well, somebody's already doing that. And it was just like, no, like there are people who, everybody's not for everybody. I'm a firm believer in that, right? Like not everybody's going to love my delivery. Not everybody's going to love my approach. Not everybody's going to love your delivery. Not everybody is going to love your approach, right? But there are certain people who need to hear it exactly how you lived it and exactly how you say it. So you just can't compare yourself. And that's hard because we live in such a popcorn generation, right? Like we see everybody's results and we think that those results come so quickly. We never see the process behind the results. We see people on the beach, people traveling, on vacation, six pack, abs out of nowhere. We see billions of dollars in designer bags and designer shoes, and we think that those people got there overnight. And I say this all the time. I'm like, nobody blows up overnight, but essentially you do, right? Sometimes it's you've been in the business 2 years, and on the second year, in the 32nd day, or whatever day of that year, you go viral. But then sometimes it takes 7 years, sometimes it takes 10 years, but your process is your process, and you just have to go through it because that story behind that process, not everyone blows up overnight. So someone needs your story. Someone needs to hear that it took you 10 years. Someone needs to hear, like myself, that you've been in school forever, right? Like I'm 28 years old. Well, I turned 28 in June, and I'm just now going to be done with school. Another thing, right? Pay me now or pay me later. Sometimes it's like you want to go straight through. Sometimes you got to go back to school at 32, 35, 40. I know one of, a person that I know from law school graduated at 42, top of his class. One of the most brilliant people I've ever had the chance to encounter. And someone probably needs his story because life is not linear and life is not perfect. And so I think that sometimes comparison can come through and take the peace that you have because you're trying to find peace in your own journey. And all we see are these images of people who have popped up and is this now and is that now, and sometimes that's only even the end result, and sometimes it's not even the end result. Sometimes it's just like something that that they're trying to portray a lot of times, and so you really 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 can't pay attention to it. The tallest trees have the deepest roots. My mom says that to me all the time. And that makes so much sense to me because we see trees and they're huge, right? They're tall, they're beautiful. Trees in the rainforest, whatever. And you think to yourself, like, like this tree is huge, but sometimes those roots go, levels upon feet into the ground. And so sometimes it's building a different foundation. Maybe, not all trees grow to be the same height, right? Some of them are taller than others, and that doesn't make it good nor bad, but it just kind of is what it is. And so when you're living in your process, right, and you're trying to find peace within that process, I feel like you just have to be consistent. You have to be disciplined, and you just have to let God do the rest. And really finding wisdom and accepting the things that you can't change about your process, because to me, that's important. And so, yes, peace, I think, peace is a process. And knowing that peace is a process kind of helps you to fight the comparison, because again, I think comparison is such the enemy of peace. Another thing that I feel like I've learned over the past 3 months with peace is just letting go. So my grandmom told her, right, and my mom would always tell me, they would emphasize the serenity prayer, right? So God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know that there's a difference. And I think that that is so important when you are pursuing peace. And I learned the importance of letting go of just anxiety and overthinking and over goal setting, because I set like way too many goals, and letting go of what I didn't accomplish, to kind of live in where I was at now. And sometimes that's letting go of opportunities, jobs that I felt like, I could have got, but I couldn't make work because I would have to do this or do that or move here or move there. And that just wasn't feasible to my reality as much as I wanted the job. Sometimes you have to let go of money, like chalk it like, hey, this was an investment, but I lost my money here. Sometimes it's even people, right? Like people who were in your life that just aren't anymore. And you just have to kind of let it be where it is, and it could come back and it could not come back, but you kind of just have to accept it for where it is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's really just the reality. And sometimes the things that you're letting go of, whether it's opportunities or money or people, are just a redirection. And there's just so much peace in accepting things for where they are in the current moment that is indescribable. And knowing that, like, this peace that you've accomplished, no one can take from you. And so I just really had to come to a space in the past 3 months that's like, it may not have worked out the way that I wanted it to work out, but it worked out the way that it should have worked out, because all of these pieces to this puzzle are perfectly aligned. And so they don't make sense in, individuality, right? But it makes sense in totality. And so you can't judge anything by its current state, right? You have to judge it by its end state. And learning to judge it by the end has brought me so much peace. And praying for wisdom and praying for, like, hey, is this something that I change or that I don't change? It has been so instrumental over the past 3 months. Like, I had to really come to terms with, like, Nicole, you were supposed to consistently be dropping 2 podcasts a month, and you didn't do that. And I had to accept the fact that, like, also your motivation is low. You're in the middle of a pandemic. You're finishing out law school. You're preparing for the bar. You're trying to apply for jobs, and kind of accepting everything where it was at, and knowing that also, oh my God, we were on a gym challenge. That was so tiring, where it was like meal prep, gym every day. And so there were so many other things that were going on, which probably may have been able to be rearranged but weren't. And I kind of had to accept them where they were and know, like, hey, we're going to get back to it, and you'll get back to it when you can. And so to recap, I feel like, when you're looking for peace, right, and we're emphasizing peace, is to take out the comparison, right, and start letting go. and accepting things where they are, and finding, even what you're passionate about, because a lot of times peace comes from pursuing your passion and knowing where you're going and where you're supposed to be. I felt like when I didn't know where I was going, my anxiety was so high. I didn't feel like I belonged, or I couldn't figure it out, and things weren't just coming together. But as soon as I started pursuing my passion, it has been chaos. I will say that. But it has also worked out. God's come through to do what he does best. And I'm so appreciative of that. So my motivational moment today comes with a quote, because as you guys may know and probably can tell, I like quotes. And so this is actually one of my favorite. And it's called Our Greatest Fear, from Marianne Williamson. And some of you may have heard it. I think it was in the movie Coach Carter. But it says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And that just felt so appropriate to me for this episode, because when you're discussing your passion, I feel like sometimes it can scare you, because not everything, when you feel it in your spirit, not everything is already together. You're like, this is an idea, but can I accomplish that? Like, can I really do that? What are the moving parts? And sometimes those moving parts can be so daunting and overwhelming. And that's frightening, right? And so it's also frightening to know, like, hey, I could take this leap and it really could work out, right? Like, sometimes that's scary. Like, it working out is like a wow, like it actually could work out. And I think that that's important. And I think that when we talk about, peace and comparison, I think knowing that, letting your own light shine is okay, and people letting their light shine, that's also okay, right? Like, we can all let our light shine, and instead of comparing each other, to give each other accolades. Like, my biggest thing is, like, when I'm successful and I'm living out my purpose and what I'm supposed to do, like, I just want to pour into other entrepreneurs, and young people who are also trying to fight their way up. And so I think that living in your passion and in your purpose gives the people the courage to do the same, and to be transparent in their journey and say, hey, it's not perfect. And yes, sometimes it's hard, but it is so worth it. So to end, I'll say, I hope that you find your passion, but I also hope that you find peace to accept where you are, and even peace to pursue the journey that you're going to go on. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. I'm back and I'm better, I feel like. So y'all know the deal. It's a cold world. Okay, real cold world. Have a wonderful week, everyone.